respect to being close to the beach. And it's a beautiful beach, as you know, sir. Brandon's is not a bad spot to be, sir. But the reality is we are offering good service, good quality, that anybody, sorry? That anybody, any part of the world can come to Barbados and know that, yes, you might go spend a little money just to get here, but once you are here, sir, that we are offering you world-class accommodation, immersed within our community, sir, because I know, certainly in my constituency, and that general area above Oistins, more and more tourists are participating in community tourism. Same thing down your side, sir. And therefore, if communities appreciate that getting the appropriate ratings from the Ministry of Tourism will help you not just to identify where there may be a few gaps that you can close, but by being able to ensure that when you put your properties on the market, sir, that we are putting our properties with the best possible chance to extract maximum value with respect to that. So I want to say to Barbadians, we must take this seriously if we are going to continue to see people invest in this area, in this very strong and robust community tourism program, and therefore standards will be important, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So I thank the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central for bringing this bill before the Chamber, because we must be honest and rate ourselves. And when we spend money, sir, we want to get back that money as quickly as possible. We want to make some money out of the investment. And I believe that notwithstanding all that happens globally, we have control. The thing that we have control over is the standard of service, the quality of the product that we're offering, sir. That is what we have control over. And if we can assert positively that this is the standard, sir, that we in Barbados have to offer, that is world class, then whether you are a large hotel chain or you happen to got a group, a few little small homes, sir, or the individual who just renting out the one bedroom, sir, attaining that standard allows you to extract maximum value. So I hope, sir, that Barbadians see this particular innovation here brought by the Ministry of Tourism as seeing how we can get them further included in this Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, because our properties, perhaps, sir, are our single largest investment that each of us will make in a lifetime. And I shall repeat again, sir, there are many families where the mother or father has passed away, sir. The family home could do with a little TLC, sir. But me and you, two brothers, sir, we don't agree, and we can't decide what to do with the property. You and I, sir, need to come together and make sure that this property that our mother and father, grandfather, grandmother worked so hard for, sir, that we can put these properties back into production in a way that helps us to not just pay homage to their sacrifice and hard work for achieving said property, but really and truly, sir, to us to put aside what differences we may have as family and focus on what is required, sir, to ensure that the hard work that our parents and grandparents put in, sir, that can actually now redound to the benefit of ordinary Barbadians. And therefore, let us not continue, sir, to cuss one another, don't talk to one another, and all of these things. We have to find ways of being able to focus our investment, collective investments, and formalize it in such a fashion, sir, that once the value is being generated, sir, by us being able to participate actively and proactively in this space, that as families, I hope, sir, as families, I hope that this could serve as an opportunity to bring people back together in a constructive way, rather than seeing our parents and our grandparents' investment linger or languish, sir, as we have seen too many properties in this country go a-begging. And so I fundamentally support it for those reasons, sir, because I really believe that this serves as a real opportunity if we as adults can see past our own differences and focus on that which I know we can deliver for ourselves and certainly for future generations. And so, whilst we accept that tourism pays the bills for the country, more and more people want to come inland. There's still a few people who are going up on the west coast and the south coast, sir, which they shall do. But more and more tourists want to have experiences with Bajans. If Bajans are mature enough to be able to see past your individual differences, then we, sir, can accommodate those people coming from all over the world who want a genuine Barbadian experience. And there are opportunities there, and I know the financial institutions are eager to online in this type of space, sir. And therefore, with respect to what we've been doing to be able to open up those spaces, construction is significant in the country at the moment with respect to the large investments, but there are so many people today who are converting into this Airbnb space. I hope that more and more people seek to participate in it, but the standards, sir, the standards, the quality that we're offering is the key to allowing people to be able to not just recoup their investment, but being able to genuinely participate in how we build intergenerational wealth, sir, such that the issues that the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central raised in his opening statement. Sometimes the way that things are communicated, it is really designed to keep people out, to give people a sense, well, this thing is too risky to participate in, and that is only for people with big money, sir. But this is not what this Barbados Labour Party has come to government to do. We've come to say to ordinary Barbadians, there is a space for you to participate in the tourism sector without needing to have millions of dollars, sir, in exposure to participate. But if you go a little further and register, get your rating, so that we are not undercutting one another as black people, sir. And I say that because, you know, sometimes we want to get somebody the property so much that we put the lowest possible price that we think that we should put. But by doing so, we are not really understanding that, one, you've got to get a little payback. Two, in order for you to ensure that you not just the payback, but that people aren't taking advantage of you because you're a single man with a single property in the space. And that is why the importance of the standard, the rating, is important, sir. So that when you put your property in the marketplace, you're confident that nobody can come. I mean, you can always make any deal you want with anybody, but you are making deals, so to speak, sir, on the basis of the quality and the standard of the product that you're putting into the market. And I believe, sir, if we do that, and we do that consistently, we won't see the race to the bottom that we're seeing in some other parts of the Caribbean, but that in this instance, sir, that people will genuinely get value for money with respect to what they're offering, and therefore then people will then become more confident to be able to go and take a little more risk because they're able to ensure that the standards are met. And with that, sir, as I said, I will be brief. I support this bill, but I want to urge Barbadians, ordinary Barbadians, let us not squander the hard work and investment that our parents and our grandparents worked hard to achieve, and because of some family dispute, the properties, sir, are languishing. Let us put those differences aside as big men and women, sir. Suck it up, so to speak, and focus on how do we get these properties into production, rated by the Ministry of Tourism, such that our families will be proud of the work that our parents and grandparents put in, and that we can say, this is paying homage, sir, to their sacrifice to allow us to be here today. And with those few words, sir, I'm obliged to you.
Leader of the Opposition.
I'm obliged to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your Honor, if there's a tradition or convention within this parliament that one should extend congratulations to a fellow member of this body on his elevation. Permit me to do so today in relation to the elevation of the Honourable Member for St. Michael West, and to say to him that it is my sincere wish that he should meet success in his new office. Now, Your Honor, today's debate meets Barbados with something of an unofficial designation as one of the mature tourism destinations in the Caribbean, and indeed in the Western Hemisphere, because I think it was an African country, and I do speak subject to correction, but I think I'm reasonably accurate in saying that Ghana may have been, and certainly South Africa, may have lent on Barbados in previous times for the standard that Barbados has set in terms of a successful tourism industry. And so, if we are a standard bearer, if this country is to be considered a standard bearer, we must continue to raise the standards in tourism. This debate will, to my mind, become one of a tale of two sectors within the tourism industry. And that is the established and the traditional large hotel, and the emerging sector, which is the sector of the small people, where tourism has now quite literally moved in to the villages and the nooks and crannies of Barbados. And it is therefore incumbent on a government to pay equal attention to that small sector. And we will raise questions today as to the emphasis of this government, not only in protecting the larger and more traditional sector, but in meeting its obligation to going to that new frontier in tourism development. One previously thought of tourism as a hotel, the more glamorous areas obviously along the corridors of the South Coast and the West Coast. And that was one's concept of tourism, except that we are now in an age in which we may have to ask the government to consider, and I'm sure the government has considered, that tourism has moved away from those corridors and has moved inland into the villages. And the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central will hear me say, quite literally, tourism has moved on to the playing fields of Barbados, and he will know that I'm talking about the cricket fields of Barbados. That is where community tourism needs to go, and needs to go with considerable government assistance. Now, we've heard of the successes in tourism. I don't know if the Honourable Member would have said it on his feet since I was elsewhere, but we hear that the JetBlue will increase to 2 flights per week out of Boston, and we'd want to congratulate the government for that. But the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central would be disappointed if I did not also point to the failures within tourism, and we regret that the Cayman experiment has remained just that. It's an experiment, and the use of the word experiment would always imply that it is something that may fail or succeed. We regret that it has not succeeded, and we therefore commiserate with the government on the failure of that experiment. But of course, it was always called an experiment, and experiments, you only have 2 outcomes, failure or success. And we commiserate with the ministry on that failure. Just this week, I was reading that the ambassador, or whatever you call him, the person in Panama, is trying to arrange for Barbadians to come home. And I got a sense that that may be related to, I don't want to say the failure, but the lack of success of the COPA experiment. I do know, and I am sure the honorable member for St. Michael West Central knows this, that COPA flight may contain more Barbadians than tourists in both directions. Indeed, those who travel tell me that Panama is now the new Miami. And one wonders how much Miami has done, not for the foreign exchange of Barbados, but to the foreign exchange of Barbados. And perhaps Panama is denting Barbados' foreign exchange because it's Barbadians basically going to shop and come back. And I was not surprised that the consular office, or whatever is his designation, the ambassador there, is now trying to complement the flights with Barbadians who obviously had gone there with the canal building and so on, and their descendants. So there is a thrust, an initiative to have these persons transfigure themselves into tourists. That would indicate to me, and the honorable member for St. Michael West Central will correct the chamber, or will give the chamber more information and tell us all how the Panama experiment has been doing. Is it Cayman Islands all over again? Is it succeeding? But whatever is the answer, we will say to him, the honorable member for St. Michael West Central, that if it duplicates the Miami run, I don't know that we can call it a success. These routes were designed, I believe, for tourism. And having been so designed for tourism, we may have to unhappily describe it as a destination that is still looking for success. I'm not going to condemn it as a failure, but I believe that with the initiatives being taken by the embassy there, that success has not come on that COPA experiment as yet. I did say, Your Honor, that this would be, in my short address, a tale of two sectors, and two sectors within the tourism industry. The large sector, the large traditional sector, the large hotels, and this government has now become noted in recent times for boasting to Barbadians that for the first time in our history, we are building 6 hotels all at the same time. And 9 now, 9. Oh, 6 turned upside down. Well, it was 6 last time. The government. I heard 6. I heard 6. In fact, the honorable member for Christchurch East Central was the minister who got up in here and said, for the first time in this country's history, we have 6 hotels going. That was 6 months ago. I see. So we've now turned the 6 upside down, and it is now 9. Very well, very well. But while we boast about that sector and the building of that sector, the Minister of Labor, the honorable member for St. Peter, will not be very pleased when you say to him that the employment in that larger sector has not really visited the fortunes of Barbadians, and the honorable member for Christchurch East Central may wish to have a conversation with the honorable Minister of Labor, the member for St. Peter, and to explain to the honorable member for St. Peter what these constructions have meant for employment of Barbadians. It is not turning out to be a very happy story, but I will leave them to have their argument. It is not unknown for government ministers to argue in here with each other, and that will be another argument. I will sit by and listen to the result of it, and if it means that I have to conclude after they argue that that building, that construction activity has not boosted employment in Barbados, I will put that as one of the failures within the larger sector. But that is another issue. That is really an employment issue, which probably does not properly belong to this debate. So let us come back to the tale of two sectors. And the government would have spent the last year offering concessions and concessions to that larger established sector. And we're happy because I think most Barbadians support the tourism industry. I'm absolutely certain that the overwhelming majority of Barbadians support the hotel sector. And there has been no rebellion against the growth of the hotel sector, and that is to say the larger hotel sector. But in fact, Barbadians recognize that it has created employment. And I've always said that Barbadians like tourism. And when we would have read the brochures from many years ago, you would always hear the tourists saying, Barbadians are very friendly, they're very receptive. And that has been a statement in how Barbadians feel about tourism. So there has never been any hostility towards the tourism sector, and perhaps that is why it remains as our largest income earner. And so the government has protected the industry. And we are not opposed to that protection. What we oppose is if the government fails to give equal emphasis to this new frontier. I call it the new frontier in tourism, what we call community tourism. And I would hope that within a few years, the word community tourism will disappear, because the language has a way of identifying a sector as being of some lesser status. And as long as community tourism is hosting human beings, it cannot be deemed to be of any lesser status. And perhaps in 5, 10 years, people will regard it as being equally prestigious as would be the Hiltons and Sandy Lanes and so on. They all host human beings, and those human beings will contribute to the national income, and those human beings will make their assessments as to the worth of Barbados, and therefore we will come to consider this sector as being important. One wants to urge the government seriously to consider the importance of that, what I call the new frontier in tourism, and to give equal concessions to that new and emerging sector. Do Barbadians know that, for example, a hotel or the villas, the villa industry, because they seem to get a lot of special treatment around here. And when I say around here, around this parliament and around this Barbados, and that they can bring in pieces of art and get concessions on it. They can bring in a dish or spoon and get concessions on it. I don't know why a shop in My Lord's Hill or on Lodge Road that hosts tourists cannot equally get concessions. I don't know why. I don't know why Barbadians sit and accept this discriminatory treatment as if it is the natural order of things. And we are going to urge the government to make that new thrust towards community tourism. Now, when I look at the long title of the bill, and this would be I know it's a cognate debate. This is the bill dealing with new accommodations. And I don't think the government will attempt to hide the fact that this bill may pertain to the emergence of that new sector. And if one is correct in so saying, that it is intended to apply, pertain, whichever word you choose, to that new sector, here is what the long title of the bill says about itself: an act to provide for the licensing, classification, designation, registration, regulation, monitoring, and inspection of tourist accommodation. Now, that long title reads neutrally, but the people who do this thing called Airbnb, if they don't know, somebody is going to tell them later today that the government is intending to embrace them and Some may believe that it is not quite a warm embrace, that it is an embrace for the purpose of control. And sometimes an embrace is warm, but when it comes from a wrestler, it is hostile. A wrestler embraces as much as a lover. And the government will be asked whether this embrace is that of a wrestler or whether it is that of a warm lover. The government is under a duty to say to these Airbnb people whether the embrace will be warm. Now, I have driven through a few local communities in Barbados. The Honourable Member for St. Michael's South would be particularly interested in this. I am willing to take him into his constituency and familiarize him with what is going on there. And I will say to him through you, sir, that there are a few Airbnb establishments in St. Michael's South, and this is called Bayville, which used to be Bayland. If you told a man 20 years ago that there's tourism in Bayland, he would laugh at you. Bayland was not associated with tourism. Bayland, as the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South always says, was the home of sailors, seamen, men who went to sea, basically lived 9-10 months out of the country, came home, built their houses, built nice houses. And that was the identity of Bayland, apart from Notre Dame, the football club. One must know one's country and one's constituency. So I am willing to introduce the Honourable Member for St. Michael's South to his constituency in that intimate way so that he sir, will become familiar. But the point is, apart from that offer to him, the government will learn that the Airbnb sector is moving into what you call non-traditional areas, and in a few years we hope that it will not be called non-traditional, because I've described it as the new frontier, and I have said to you, Your Honor, that that is the real area for tourism growth. So that while the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central feels that the major triumph for this country is the construction of 6 hotels, I want to say to him through you, sir, that is not the major triumph. The major triumph is the extension or the expansion of the hotel sector into the what we call non-traditional physical communities of Barbados. And therefore, you're getting growth there. The problem would be crime, obviously, and we're not going to discuss crime today, but that is why it is incumbent upon the government to take crime seriously, and to not eradicate it, but to control it to the point where not only tourists, but locals will feel that a journey into the local communities is a journey that will be safe. And all that is left for me to do then is to identify, for the purposes of this debate, the areas of community tourism. I want to make a personal boast. I don't like to boast in here, but I've represented and still represent a constituency that has the most successful community tourism project in Barbados. I believe it is the area that tourists describe as the most popular place of social ferment. That is the Oistins area. And when people say Oistins, they think of Friday night and they think of the Bay Garden. Oistins as a tourism destination is a lot more than Oistins and Oistins Bay Garden. Let those who do not pass through Oistins understand that the tourism location extends to the fish market. A lot of tourists actually walk through the fish market during the day, and they're quite fascinated at how the industry works, literally how it works, how men bring the fish up from the jetty, they bring it through, they store it in the ice machines, and sorry, not in the ice machines, they get ice from the machines and store it in their large bins. And they're fascinated at how they cut the fish, and they've never seen it. It's like a child who tells you that milk comes from a carton. He's never seen a cow, so American children will tell you that milk comes from a carton. Milk comes from a cow. so that these people who come through Oistins know where the fish come from. For the first time in their life, a man who lives in the middle of New York City has never seen a fish market. So I want to say to you, sir, on behalf of the government, some of whom will know, that that tourism plant or that tourism attraction in Oistins extends to the Berendukok fish market. And I will extend it. It extends to the boatyard. A boatyard is a real attraction. There are not many people who have ever seen a wooden boat, and it is a matter of some regret that the government fenced it in. I have complained about this before. I understand that one of my predecessors in that constituency always complained about the plans to fence in the boatyard. And my views have been associated with his, that a boatyard should not be fenced in. And the word we use is organic. A boatyard has always been an organic part of a community. For God's sake, Oistins is a fishing town. And the source of fish in a boatyard must always remain accessible not only to tourists, but to locals. So when you fence it in, you are doing not only aesthetic damage to the location, but you're doing symbolic and cultural damage. A boatyard must be a place where people pass and repass, as we as lawyers say. And I wonder if I can urge the government to make an adjustment to that design. Now, perhaps some government minister will come and say that the people asked for it, that the boat people asked for it. I don't know if that is so, but I don't know. I am not aware that it is possible to take up a boat and steal it, but I would like to see the aesthetics return to that boatyard. We've had some of the most beautiful pieces of art done along the other coast, for example, the west and northern coast, where the artists have captured on canvas the building of wooden boats by the craftsmen. Oistins has now excluded itself from the gaze of the artists, and as a cultural asset, we may lose it. I wonder if I may again appeal to the government to make some adjustment to that boatyard so that the tourists, they used to walk from down in the area of Lowe's Laundry, and they'd walk right up. And they would walk through the boatyard, and they'd be so fascinated by the boats, and they'd look at the wooden boats, and they would get a close-up view. And if they were lucky, they would have actually seen the boat builder building the boat, and they wonder how something out of wood does not leak at sea. And then they see him inserting between the lengths of wood something that looks, some kind of fabric, cord or something. And I don't know what it is. I'm not a boat builder. I don't pretend to be something that I'm not. I heard the Honourable Member for St. James Central, his laughter would indicate that he wants us to believe he's a boat builder. I want to tell the House that he's not. And like me, he has to remain mystified at the phenomenon of boat building. But the point is, you can speak now. The point is, it is a cruel exclusion of the curious passerby to exclude him from the boatyard. As I said, the government will advance some reason as to why they've done it, but please, I will never pretend to be Ron O'Regan, but please take down that fence. Please take down that fence and do it soon, so that Oistins returns to the beauty, so that Oistins recaptures itself as a cultural asset on the South Coast. And I began by saying that Oistins is the most treasured cultural asset, and not only cultural asset, but the most desired tourism destination. And I was saying to the government that it is not only Friday night at the boatyard, that it extends to the fish market and extends to the boatyard. And I'm not finished. I had this dream that on the other side of the road, and this would be Scarborough, Ashbyland, and you come right down, That is the area, and it was a genuine fishing town. The people who built Oistins lived in Oistins, and therefore it is genuinely a town. Unlike what is happening in Spikestown, unlike what is happening or what has happened in Whole Town. A town qualifies for that status when people live in it. Its survival is dependent on people living there. And Oistins is one of the few locations that is called a town that retains that description of being a town because people live there. What is the point I'm making then? That the people still live there. And the people who literally went out to sea lived on the other side of the road. The vendors who plied their trade before the market was built, they lived on the other side of the road. The people in the Bay Garden lived on the other side of the road, and in many cases still do. And I was talking about a dream that I had. And I have recently in another place said that Barbados architecturally needs to revisit local design in terms of its housing stock. And you can, Your Honor, give back to Oistins that old identity that if the government is going to be giving concessions to large establishments, large multi-million, billion-dollar establishments for their development, there must be equal compassion in a government that will assist in rebuilding Oistins, literally and physically rebuilding Oistins as a heritage town. And it will not be done unless the other side of the road is developed according to that old architecture. If you drive along Oistins, Your Honor, I think you know a little about Oistins. There is a little gray house off from the road, and that is one of the remaining chattel houses in Oistins. For some reason, it's closed. I don't know what is happening there. Of course, there are the old shops and the old tavern where they signed this famous document and so on. But I would want the government not to lose the opportunity to develop Oistins as a heritage area and extend it to the construction. You helping people. You help the rich people, help some people who are not rich too. And rebuild those houses, not because you want to rebuild houses, but a tourist will come and he will see what the old Barbadian village looked like. And the houses will be comfortable, they'll be pretty, they'll be well painted, they will have the original designs, the jalousies and so on. And that was a dream that I had. But of course, we have a new housing minister now. And if my pleas did not reach his predecessor, he is no stranger to Christchurch. And I began by congratulating him, not as a way of bribing him into accepting my proposal, but I would want the Honourable Member for St. Michael West to seriously look at Oistins as a heritage town, a heritage village, a heritage town. And it will not become that unless the architecture, the original architecture, returns to that area. I'm sure the Honourable Member for St. Michael West has seen, there was one in Puerto Rico, the old San Juan, for example. And old San Juan became a tourism attraction because it was old San Juan. It was the original San Juan. They built a new one, but that one, I guarantee, may attract more visitors than the new San Juan. I think that's the name of the town. I don't remember. That might be the name of the town. But Oistins, you probably cannot do it with Whole Town now because Whole Town has gone the way of modernity. Spikestown, unfortunately, has become a market. And the people who used to live along that stretch, the numbers have decreased considerably. Oistins' numbers have not decreased. And that is why Oistins, I repeat, will remain authentically a local Barbadian town with history, a local Barbadian town with a peculiar culture, its own culture. And I say to the Honourable Member for St. Michael West in his new dispensation, and I sincerely congratulate him, that that could be a project that could give him much standing within Barbados if he pursues it, if he is allowed to pursue it. And I hope he is allowed to pursue it. Nobody takes ownership in an idea. Nobody owns any idea. An idea is just that. An idea comes from observation, sometimes reading, and we just pass on ideas to people. So that's an idea I pass on to the government. If the government wishes not to do it, well, the government knows what to do when the time comes to give somebody else a chance to do these good things. But that is a good thing that can be done to Oistins and for Oistins. Of course, a new government would extend this project beyond Oistins because Barbados really needs to recapture that identity. And you hear, and we must listen to people. You hear complaints coming from the conservationists. And they're not conservationists because they're conservative. They're conservationists because they think that culture is important as a means of identifying people, as a means of establishing a truly authentic Barbadian identity. And the complaint has been made about what is happening, particularly on the South Coast, the recreation of Miami. You can't tell people how to spend their money. You can't tell people how to design their buildings. But against that, the counterculture will be to recapture the old Barbadian architectural value system and to rebuild Barbados as a genuinely attractive tourism project. It is our architecture. Apart from the people, it is our architecture that sets us apart. And I say to the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central, working in tandem with the Honourable new Minister, the Member for St. Michael West, his neighbour, that that is something, that is a project worth pursuing for the short time that you may occupy the offices that you do. That is, no, start it. Even if you don't get the opportunity to finish, start it. So I move then from Oistins, and I will continue on the subject of community tourism. I say this debate will reduce itself to a tale of two sectors. And over the last 60 plus years of this country's maturation as a tourism destination, a lot has been done to develop the traditional areas. How much more can be done in that traditional area? They've done a lot, and they've done a lot of good for this country, but this country and this government must now do something for community tourism. That is where the expansion must take place, because you're talking about enfranchisement, and you're talking about self-employment, and you're talking about opportunity for your people. And so I move away from Oistins, and as I have said in a previous debate, the village rum shop. And for some reason, and perhaps for good reason, the government has given generous concessions. I stood up in here a few months ago in a debate where concessions to the villa sector were increased. I heard nothing about the community tourism. Heard nothing about it. And so, around the time of that debate, thank God I had driven up my Lord's Hill the evening before, and I saw persons whom I identified as tourists. And they were having a grand time. And this is one of the streets obliquely opposite the Rubis gas station on my Lord's Hill. That was a tourism destination, sir. What are the concessions extended there to? Yes, the Honourable Member, whose shop is it? Goofy? It's not the most elegant name, but Goofy. But these are no less tourist destinations than the Hilton. That's where the people go. They go to Oistins, they go there. So that gives them the intimate contact with Barbadians, the intimate contact that they want. And if we as a people manage to resolve this scourge of crime, this country can be a beautiful place, not only for us, but for our visitors whom we have invited here since 1958 and to the present. I put the case therefore, Your Honor, for the extension of concessions to persons who own what the English call the local, the village shop. They need concessions too. They cater to the tourism industry too. I know the complaint is made within the traditional sector that they are losing some of their patrons to these establishments of entertainment. They're not losing them. The community tourism is complementing in a very real way the established sector. So I plead with the government, when it is giving these generous concessions, to consider the village shop from St. Lucie right down to Christchurch and across to St. Philip, and I won't disappoint anybody and leave out St. John. Extend concessions to the locals, to the village shops, the village establishments all across this country, so that tourism will grow. Because, as I've said, the growth of tourism, the potential growth of tourism is contained within the local communities of Barbados. I will not end there, I will end soon, but I will commend that growth in relation to our cricket clubs. I am no expert in tourism, never have been, never will be, but I listen to those who know. And there's a term I hear, source market. And source market, I'm told, is where you get the most of your tourists, or some of your tourists. And I'm told that most of our tourists come from England. Most of them are British. Now, you do not properly discuss English culture unless you discuss cricket. Cricket maybe is at the heart of English culture, and that is why I was saying in a conversation yesterday that it was a shock to the English cultural system when the West Indies team beat them in 1950. They could not understand it, and it was a shock to them because they could not imagine that these sons of colonial parts of the world could come to England and beat them. And the point is that cricket meant so much to them. Cricket was so much at their cultural center that the defeat shocked them. But the point is this: I play cricket and have played cricket for some time, and I have played it at a sufficiently acceptable standard, I wouldn't say high standard, acceptable standard, that I have had the privilege of representing a few clubs. And when you have the privilege of representing a club, you play on Saturday afternoons. And those of us who have a good eye, you're sitting there or you're on the field, and you used to see a mini moke pull up, and you would see some tourists get out and they'd take their photographs and they'd walk around the ground, and then they would patronize the bar at the cricket club. And these cricket clubs sometimes would be old, broken down houses. They weren't well-built places, but it offered a charm. And more than offering some charm, it offered itself as an allurement to the tourists. The point I make, Your Honor, is that cricket in this country, and I know there has been sports tourism, but going beyond sports tourism, the cricket club and the government is therefore encouraged to reach out to the cricket clubs, the isolations, and the St. John Cultural, and of course St. Catherine. But of course the government has participated in the destruction of St. Catherine by putting a fence around it again. You wish to drive into Bayfield, and you wish to unfold your little chair, and you wish just to walk onto the edge of the ground and watch the game without feeling that you're going into a concentration camp with all these fences and barbed wire and so on. I don't know what the government thought it was doing. So undo that, please, government, and return these cricket grounds not only to the people in the villages, but return them to tourism. The cricket club has been an allurement to the tourists in this country, and I urge the government to consider that it ought to extend concessions to the cricket clubs which have been allurements to tourists. And to make the point further, for those members of the government who either can't play cricket or tried to play and couldn't get in the team, I will say to them now that if you visit a lot of the old clubs, my club is Spartan, one of the most successful clubs in Barbados. I'm not going to say anything about Empire. I'm here to promote Spartan. Or you go to St. John Cultural, you go to St. Catherine, or you go to Dover Cricket Club in Dover, Christchurch. And one of the first things you see when you go into that cricket club, you see a lot of gifts from cricket clubs in England, people who have come here and they haven't gone to the more glamorous destinations. They go into the cricket clubs. If they haven't gone to the village shop or if they haven't gone to Oystins, they visit, Your Honor, the cricket clubs, and they leave evidence of their own visit. So you will see in a lot of the clubs these little banners, some club in England, and they're old, which tells you, Your Honor, that tourism has been let me put it the other way around. These clubs have well-serviced tourism, except that we take it for granted, except that we have never offered them concessions, except that we feel that perhaps it is an accident of our economic life, social and economic life, that they just exist and that a tourist will just come through there and enjoy himself or herself. No, they must be seen as being equally significant to the established sector. So the government is encouraged to take tourism, literally take tourism into those communities. As I've said before, people by their own initiative have established Airbnb within those communities. How do we treat that initiative? Do we punish that initiative with high taxes and over-regulation? Or do we assist that initiative as we have assisted the large, rich, established sector? The choice belongs to this government. But I want to say that it is our position that this community tourism enterprise deserves help from the government, deserves help in terms of concessions, deserves help in terms of positive and warm regulation and not hostile regulation. Do not visit this burgeoning sector with over-regulation, over-taxation. Don't visit that sector in any begrudging way. They are entitled to this economic earth as well. They are entitled to occupy the economic earth. And as I've said it 2 or 3 times, and it is worth repeating, that this sector is the new frontier in tourism in Barbados. There are not a lot more beachfront areas to pour cement, you know, sir. There are not a lot. And if some of that cement must be poured into the villages and the local communities of Barbados, so be it. And it must not only be cement, but I promise the people of Barbados, and I say to this government, that if we redesign our architecture within the local communities, that it will do much good for this country, much good for this country's tourism, and much good for this country's identity, that thing that is called Barbadian. A lot of people now, they fly into Barbados, and they're not identifying Barbados by the beautiful Chattel House any longer. And this is not to be patronizing. The Chattel House really is beautiful. And we are discovering that with every destruction of a chattel, we are discovering beauty because we are losing it. Here is a chance, under a new Minister of Housing, whom I have welcomed, to redesign the housing stock in this country for the sake of comfort, for the sake of aesthetics, and for the sake of culture. And if we must extend it, for the sake of tourism. And so, Your Honor, I will close by asking the government for some good explanation. I'm sure that in my absence, my forced absence, the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central would have offered some good explanation for the merging of the product authority into BTMI. One will hope that it does not overburdened BTMI, and we know, and I'm a casual observer, that you ask the average Barbadian over the last 10, 15 years about BTMI, and he recognizes it immediately. That's the glamorous one. That is the big one. That is the rich one. That is the one that can spend $500,000 US on a slogan. They must be really rich, and we're happy for their wealth. And if you ask the average Barbadian, but what is this thing called the Product Authority? The average Barbadian was not aware that the Product Authority did more, and this is not to reflect on the other, but when you're talking tourism product, BTMI really was the marketing agency.
Mr.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Yeah. Sorry, I hate to interrupt the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, but I wouldn't want him to mislead the record. He did indicate that he was in another location dealing with matters of the state. So I just want to assure him that the product unit, as you know it, when it goes over to license and compliance, will not be within the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. It's being returned to central government. So I won't want you to mislead the House. So I hate to interrupt you, like I said, but it was necessary to please correct the record. Thank you.
And I do genuinely appreciate that intervention, sir. I am corrected. As I said, I know very little about tourism. I am no expert. I have just practiced law for a long time. That is what I know. The past laws are here, and that's why I come here to talk law and talk about law. But beyond that, I speak economics sometimes, I speak sociology, I speak political science, and I speak philosophy, and I speak the arts. And so please accept my apology for knowing very little about tourism. But I read, I listen, and I watch. And having explained that the product aspect is going back into central government, please let the people of Barbados be aware that product, I don't wish to compare, but product is as important and certainly no less important than marketing. Of course, it is the marketing people who bring the people here. But once the people have got here, what do we offer to these people? What we offer to them is dependent on those responsible for product. I've learned that. I've been taught that by a good expert in tourism. I did not know that before. The average Barbadian did not know that. So returning to central government, I hope they will receive the protections of central government, and I hope that their work will not be diminished. I hope that they will be exposed to the need or to the education that the product needs to be improved, the product needs to be extended in the ways that we have suggested, extended, as I've said in the earlier part of my speech, that should be extended into community tourism. And so product is important. Now, I have had association with Oystins, and I have had association with the area, with the project in St. Thomas. And I am proud of both previous associations. I think that Oystins remains a success, needing improvement, and the improvement to St. Thomas, I'm speaking of Harrison's Cave, obviously, has been magnificent and impressive, and I believe it is successful. I had some short association there, and I'm proud of that. And we need more. The truth is, Barbados needs more. And if we say that Barbados needs more, there then becomes an even more compelling case to take it into the communities. What more can the established hotels do? As an expert in tourism said, a hotel really is a place for the people to sleep. And sometimes, I know they used to bring in the Mother Sally and entertainers and so on, but you cannot imprison your guests. And if the established sector intends not to imprison its guests, then product becomes more fundamentally important. What shall be the product that we sell to these tourists? Again, Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central, I say to him through you, sir, that I urge that expansion into the communities. And if the government manages to wrestle against the scourge of crime, and to do it successfully, we have done our part. And to do it successfully, then they will find that this country is a far, far better place to live, not only for us who are residents here, but for our tourists who reside here temporarily. I want to say that, speaking honestly, and this is casual observation, that this year in tourism, summer, you become a politician and you start to observe things that you did not observe before. And I did see in Bridgetown and along the South Coast, people who I identified as tourists. I go to some of the establishments, you hear the accents, you look at different modes of dress. All are not white, some are black. And so I want to concede that I did see some activity. I don't come in here and tell lies, and I don't go anywhere and tell lies. So I don't tell lies. And so to tell the truth, sir, you see, I tell the truth, which compliments the government, and they don't like it. So they want me to lie? The truth is, sir, I did see some activity. Now, I am not interpreting that activity statistically or in terms of success. The minister will do that. But what I am conceding, Your Honor, I didn't see any in Deacon's Road, so you have a case to put. But I did see something. And seeing something, I speak as a patriotic Barbadian. And I hope that when the time comes, when the statistics are revealed, that I can be made happy like all Barbadians wish to be made happy, because it is not in the interest of any Barbadian, including a member or a leader of the opposition, for tourism to fail. It is not in our interest. We are patriotic, and I did see some activity, and I look forward to those statistics. What we want the government to do is not to spend $500,000 again, and I don't think this minister will do that on a slogan. I don't think this minister will do that. I don't think his administration will do that. They set up some committee, I think about, I don't lie, it was about 19 or 20 persons to come up with a new slogan. Barbadians have not heard of that slogan. Barbadians wish to recover something for the loss of the $500,000 and to bring to us a slogan that will work. I don't think that slogans work anyhow. It is the country that works, and then the slogan gets the credit. So that I am not a proponent of slogans, I'm a proponent of substance. And I repeat, the substance of growth lies within those local communities, within those Airbnbs. But I was about to end, and I was about to say to you, sir, and I was corrected by the minister, let us put more focus on product. And if it is not in the consciousness of Barbadians that this thing called product exists, maybe it is that government has de-emphasized product. And everybody in this country knows about the glamorous BTMI. BTMI is so glamorous. And you must be glamorous when you have that kind of money to spend in New York. But we are going to de-emphasize. No, we're not going to de-emphasize marketing. We are going to put as much emphasis on product, and product will become as noticed as marketing. And therefore, product will see the establishment or the creation of local festivals. I know there's the Rum Festival and so on. There are the music festivals. We've lost our major music festival, that is jazz. We had Carifesta a few weeks ago, and the question will be asked, was Carifesta about tourism or was it about Caribbean regionalism? Maybe it was about both. The government will tell us very shortly how much money was spent on it. If a lot of it was recovered through the tourism aspect of it, that's fine. But we're going to hear those numbers soon. I know the government on the question of Carifesta, and I'm still within the context of tourism. If the government is now putting those numbers together, it has been a failure of the governments not to do a budget before. You do a budget and tell the country how much you're going to spend on it. You don't spend wildly and then say, I'm adding, and when I finish adding, I will tell you how wild I was. No, it is not done like that. You don't deal with government resources in that way. But I speak of that in the context of tourism. It is quite possible, Your Honor, that the country did not recover much of the money from Carifesta. I know you got a lot of free tickets for your constituents, Your Honor, so that there was no income for the NCF there. And so, Your Honor, I think I have dealt with most of the issues.
I'm sure the constituents of Christchurch South receive as well, too.
Yes, we are lowly in here. We get a little freeness from time to time. You got free tickets and I got some. And we equally rejoice. I know what I did with mine. I gave mine out, but incidentally. I am asked by... You, for those who know Barbadian culture, while the honorable member for St. James Central settles, I will make a plea or a protest on behalf of the people who own hard cars, and that they're being asked to shoulder this some $10 thing that the government is asking for. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows why the government has turned, nobody knows why the government has turned on the people with hard cars. I don't know if the government doesn't like them, but I'm asked to issue protests on their behalf in relation to this $10. It sounds like a small amount of money, but it multiplies often. Is it $10 a day, sir? Do you know? You probably don't. But it is a great imposition against them. We've already spoken about the overregulation of the Airbnb sector. They're afraid. They're afraid that the government is coming at them, coming towards them, as I said, not with any protective embrace, but an embrace that may be hostile, an embrace that intends to control them. And when you control them, you begin to tax them, and you begin to tax them in a way that is disadvantageous. And when they see the concessions being given to the villas, they may think that the government lacks compassion. And so, Your Honor, I think I have canvassed all of the areas. The few areas of congratulation that the government deserves, it has got. Although it's few, they have received it. The many areas of criticism, they have heard, and they will accept the congratulation as much as they will accept the criticism if they intend to be a good government. And the criticisms are many. But the government will, I take it, spend the rest of its time improving community tourism in Barbados. That is our position. That tourism in Barbados is doing nothing unless it goes into the communities. And if it is going into the communities, it must cease this intention to overtax, to overregulate, and it must begin to be a protective embrace of a community that offers so much, not only to culture in Barbados, but to tourism. And you will not improve your tourism unless you work on your culture. And that is why I've said all that I have said, Your Honor. So that is my short contribution to the debate. I think I have covered all that I intended to, and I appreciate your patience, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Much obliged.
Member for St. James Central.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I want to make a short contribution to this debate. And yes, I hear the heckling begins as soon as I come to my feet, sir. And I did, at lunchtime, indicate to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition that I was not minded to speak That, of course, sir, was before he assaulted this house in the way that he just did. And, sir, I want to begin by offering an apology through you, sir, to the country, because it was me, in my capacity as the Minister of Tourism in 2018, who went to the Cabinet and asked for them to approve that honourable member as the chairman of the Caves of Barbados Limited. I felt then that he had within him the ability to rise to the occasion to at least develop some understanding of tourism, and that he has served there and obviously demitted that office without having shown any substance or inclination for the subject matter. Sir, is a matter which he's admitted himself, is a matter about which I take full responsibility and humbly offer my apologies to the country, sir, through you. Mr. Speaker, sir, I say that perhaps in a jocular way, but I sincerely believe that if ever I am to father a hard-headed child, I will call it Ralph. The honourable member, sir, refuses to divorce himself from what the French would call an embourgeoisified philosophy. A philosophy that looks at life through the lens of the bourgeoisie, the upper class, the wealthy, sir. You know, when you begin a speech of this nature and say that tourism in Barbados has always been about the West Coast and the South Coast, it tells you, sir, how you see the people who are operating the shops and the places of attraction inland Barbados, and have always operated these places of attraction inland Barbados. And yes, he caught himself as he went through and then tried to contradict himself mid-speech and make reference to the need to do things in the community, Mr. Speaker, sir. But the opening philosophical statement was that tourism in Barbados was West Coast, South Coast product. Now, sir, here's the issue for me. Philosophically, we have as a country eventually to come to terms with what it is that is buttering the bread in this island. And the Democratic Labour Party, represented as it now is the same Democratic Labour Party, a different person speaking, but the same philosophy that put this country in deep turmoil between 2008 and 2018. It's the same. As I listened to the honourable member, I could have been listening to his spokesman, his current spokesman on tourism, though these days you don't hear much about him because he doesn't have much to contradict or to find fault with in his subject matter because of the excellent work that is being done by the honourable member for St. Michael West Central. Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, what is the philosophical position of the Democratic Labour Party? It is the Democratic Labour Party, sir, that failed to recognize that we had to build out the same spatial balance, and that is the technical term you're searching for, the same spatial balance that you came to this house just now and started to go through the motion of lecturing us about. It is our administration that has had to build out that spatial balance. It is our administration that has had to make it possible for the same product that we're talking about to be felt across St. Joseph, to be felt, Mr. Deputy Speaker, across St. Thomas, across inland Barbados, because there was little or nothing done. I came to this Parliament, sir, and made reference as a young Minister of Tourism to the fact that there were hotels in Barbados. Hotels that had the same product authority having to pay visits to them and take pictures and bring in the fire service and bring in the public health officers and bring in a whole raft of Barbados' government social services and write letters to the owners of the hotel. And Mr. Speaker, sir, nothing was done. It was treated as though it could all be swept under the rug because that is a big hotelier and they're not to be touched. That is the Barbados that we inherited. And part of the difficulty, sir, is that we have this newly minted leader of an opposition, needing, of course, to be heard or seen to be heard, making what he would want to hope are credible points on behalf of not only the meager few that he managed to bring with him to Parliament today, because he brought 3 people from his camp, 3 followers, 3. They may be the only 3 who follow him faithfully, but he managed to bring them. And, sir, wanting to be heard outside of this Parliament as saying something that is credible about the subject matter which he admits he knows and understands very little about. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is necessary for Barbados to come to the point where we understand that you can't call tourism people getting off a cruise ship, for example, in Bridgetown, and taking a walk to a beach in Carolina Bay, renting a chair, and spending the day lying down in the chair, walking in the sea, and in between maybe buy a few Banks beers, and that is the tourism product of the country. It is necessary to take those few thousand people that come off of a cruise ship and have them dispersed widely across this island, sampling a wide variety of options. A menu of options must be placed before these people every single day, that they can therefore choose what it is I wish to participate in. Now, that should not be a matter of debate between us. That is where the Barbados Labour Party stands. And we will not be lectured by, I want not to say a Johnny-come-lately, sir, but I can't find another term in the English language at short notice. We will not be lectured on that, because, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is a fundamental way of operating as far as we're concerned. It is equally short-sighted for the honourable member to spend time on the question of Panama. This is why I got to start here, because God disabused the record and the minds of the people who may have listened, because I know, sir, that there will be some who'd listen. And I want to disabuse the minds of the people. No, sir, that it is a nonsense to talk an airline that started in 2018. I was on the inaugural flight that came to Barbados. At that time, it was once weekly. Today, Copa Airlines flies into Barbados at least 4 or 5 times a week. Mr. Speaker, I know it's 4 times a week. I know for a fact that discussions are underway to increase the number, either to 5 or to 7. So, sir, it cannot be that Copa is seeing declining numbers, because there is no commercial entity that is going to look to escalate to the point of 4 a week and then go beyond that if it is that numbers were declining. So, again, the Democratic Labour Party has to come away from the intense desire to win a government by propaganda only, and to start to associate itself with substance. Now, why is it, sir, that I can stand here, and I ain't tourism minister, but I am Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I know that the people of Panama are now using Barbados as a gateway in order to get to the United Kingdom. And I know this because Panama don't have the kind of direct flights that we have. And it is exceptionally difficult to go through Turkey in order to get to the UK. So therefore, sir, we are seeing Panamanians coming here and spending a night or 2 nights when they are then to connect on to the United Kingdom through Barbados. It is equally true to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it was only in the month of August that the Panamanians established an embassy here in Bridgetown. Yes! And the Panamanians then established an embassy with providing consular services if it was that then the Panamanians coming through Barbados. What would the embassy be providing consular services for? But you see, this is the factual matrix that exists out there, but in the la-la land of George Street, where make believe and make it up as you go along is the way in which they do things. And that's why I apologize to the country, because I thought better of you then. And you continue to disappoint. The honourable member, sir, not you. The honourable member continues to disappoint profoundly, because there's no logic behind a whole government of Panama coming to Barbados, setting up an embassy in Barbados. They got one in Trinidad. They could do whatever they want to do through Trinidad. They come here, paying rent, set up embassy, paying staff here. Mr. Speaker, sir, why? Then the Panamanians, according to the leader of the opposition. None are coming here. The plane full of Barbadians going to shop and that's it. No, sir, I mean, and if that is what passes for fodder intellectually in George Street, then let's keep it there. Let us treat it as though it is unique to George Street, totally unexportable, and there it can remain. But you can't bring that to intelligent people in the Parliament of Barbados, sir, and ask for us to suffer through that. I mean, take this in remembrance of me. I am Ralph Thorne. Take this in remembrance of me. I can't do that. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, he then waffled on, calling Panama an experiment, and went on to the question of concessions. Now, anybody but a spokesman in Parliament of Barbados on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party should be heard to talk about concessions in tourism. Anybody but a spokesman on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party. I want to remind the honourable member that it was a year called 2013, and it was around and about on the 5th of November, if memory serves me correctly, and it usually does, that a then finance minister would have come on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party to explain to the country a whole raft of concessions which were given to a hotel called Sandals. And that raft of concessions given to the hotel called Sandals, Mr. Speaker, sir, I go through it slowly because I want to refresh the memory of the leader of the opposition. He went there, not me, 25 years exempt from import duties, the hotel. Now, there was no other hotel in Barbados. And Barbados at the time had 6,000 hotel rooms. There was no other hotel in Barbados that was getting 25 years or anywhere near that exempt from import duties for anything that the hotel needed. That's the Democratic Labour Party. And they come now, 10 years later, to lecture us about concessions. And Mr. Speaker, sir, taxes exempt from any form of tax, including value-added tax. Yes, it is right. Every form of tax, including value-added tax, exempt from levies of every nature. And Mr. Speaker, sir, if you thought that that was bad, at the end of 25 years, wait for it, at the end of 25 years, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the same hotel is entitled to get one half of the applicable rates at the end of 25 years for another 15 years. That was the gift by the Democratic Labour Party, the gift by the institution that he left us to go and embrace and hold up to the country. That was the gift that he left us to go and lead. That was the gift, Mr. Speaker, sir, that was given to a large hotel. And now here the shout, we are being lectured about an alleged preference towards large hotels. But there's nothing in the history that reeks, that smells to high heavens, like that which I'm referring to, Mr. Speaker, sir, done by the Democratic Labour Party, led by Ralph Thorne today. The honourable member, sorry, I can't call his name. The honourable member for St. He's not St. John. He is not associated with so many places, sir. Christchurch South. Christchurch South. The honourable member with no fixed place of abode. Political abode, that is, sir. Political abode. The honourable member with no fixed place of
order,
political
please.
abode.
Order, please.
No, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker,
order,
sir.
please. Thank you.
The honourable
order,
member,
please.
The honourable member, no, because he likes to come in here and share, lets you know, but he's very thin-skinned. And the slightest thing rattles him. He will not sleep tonight. He is my neighbor, the dog. My dog will be barking or he'll be walking up and down the street vexed, flinging off his hand, talking to himself, wandering. No, Mr. Speaker, sir, I go back to the subject matter because the honourable member offends the ears of the listener when he speaks about these things. I mean, you know, sir, again, he makes it seem as though this administration does nothing or did nothing for small entities in tourism. No, Mr. Speaker, sir, the honourable member sat in Parliament when budgets in this parliament, for every budget that has been given under this administration. I expect, therefore, that he was in here paying attention and not asleep. I expect, Mr. Speaker, sir, that even if he did not know, his research team should be able to enlighten him that almost every single year for the past 7 years, the Honourable Prime Minister of Barbados and Minister of Finance has raised the threshold for land taxes in Barbados. And that when we are talking about these Airbnbs, in many instances we are talking about somebody's private property on which they are entitled or expected to pay land tax. And Mr. Speaker, sir, if it is that the land tax threshold is raised, then, sir, it is that they are getting, in fact, the concessionary benefit. Because you are charging a rent for a property, you've got people living in the property, but the government tells you, pay less land tax. Pay less land tax. We came into government and land tax rates were at $150,000 to start with. That was the entry threshold. It is all up around $450,000 today, Mr. Speaker, sir. What madness am I hearing? Or is it simply that there is a level of financial illiteracy attached to this debate through the lips of the honourable member? And Mr. Speaker, sir, above and beyond that, it was only in the last budget before this House that the finance minister, not the prime minister because it was the budget presented by the honourable member for St. Michael, Christchurch, East Central. He came here, sir, and he zero rated for real estate was zero, property tax on real estate was zero rated as long as it was under 1 acre property. Property transfer tax was zero rated for all properties less than 1 acre if it is that a father or mother was transferring that property to his or her child. So as to ensure that at that community level that we hear so much old talk about in here today, the substance which the honourable member likes to say he's interested in, but apparently paid no attention to, the substance is that it is this government that not only recognizes the importance of assisting that level of the society and economy, but ensuring that there is intergenerational wealth. You make it easier, simple deed of gift. You don't got to pay a lawyer a big lot of money for the transaction, and the property transfer tax is zero rated. I could have an Airbnb that is worth $500,000, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I could give it to my son or daughter by way of a deed of gift. And property transfer tax is not part of the deal. Mr. Speaker, sir, what are we talking about when we are then lectured about concessions? Is that not a concession, Mr. Speaker? And if it is not, and if that doesn't satisfy the appetite of the honourable member, whose government, incidentally, when they had the opportunity, did nothing in this sector, because, sir, this sector was given birth to by a Barbados Labour Party administration led by Owen Arthur back in 2005 as we led up to the Cricket World Cup 2007. Let's not forget that. But if it is that then they came into office and did nothing, Mr. Speaker, sir, what else have we done in the absence of their performance? Because it is all, you know, loose lips is what the politics of today is. And that is why I fear for the honourable member in his trek to a new constituency. Because it is a constituency that has grown accustomed to people of substance. Substance. No, you don't want me to say, remind people that you ran from Christchurch South, that you run up in St. John. You don't want me to say that. I am going to say that until it sticks in your craw, because you came here and said that you had a vision. You are like Dr. Martin Luther King. I have a dream, you said. I didn't say it for you. You stood up in here and said, I have a dream. Your dream was to do this with the fishermen in Christchurch South and Oistins. And what did you do? You abandoned them. You didn't even have a meeting with one of them. You have not turned your back. You came to the Nation newspaper and you pledged that if you were ever to leave Christchurch South, you will hold a meeting first and talk with the people. Next thing, we went to hear in the same Nation newspaper that you are running in St. John without a nomination. You did not even have a nomination. Foisted your offensive self on the Democratic Labour Party and its branch in St. John. I know you don't want me to talk. No, Mr. Speaker, sir. Corporation tax from profits derived by mortgages. Each of these, not each, because I would imagine that everybody has not incorporated, but a wise operator of an Airbnb or whatever platform they're on, Verbo or whoever, will incorporate. Because you don't want the liability to be at you personally, a company will shield you from the personal liability. But you're deriving a profit. What has this government said? In the very last budget, the last budget done in here, and the honourable member was here because he came here with about 24 notebooks that he read on board the house, a night of tedium, 8 hours on his feet, dribbling, wasting time, 10 hours, however long it was. But the point is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is in that budget that it was made clear that corporation taxes from profits derived by mortgages valued over $250,000. So that means, therefore, that the house, the Airbnb that people come in to live in, it'll be $250,000 worth or more, will be reduced. The mortgage will be reduced, sir. Sorry, the corporation tax will be reduced to 9%. No, Mr. Speaker, sir, that's in the last budget. And that is a direct concession to the same sector and the same class of people operating within the sector that the honourable member talks about and says, well, we need to have concessions. Now, it tells me, sir, that there was no preparation that went into this speech. Honourable members would see me coming here today. I had no intention of getting into this. This is just simple common knowledge from sitting in Parliament that I am aware of what happened, and I could get up at a moment's notice and respond to a leader of the opposition who has 3 or 4 people in here that came to help him. And Mr. Speaker, sir, there's clearly a deficit of understanding in the Democratic Labour Party on these. I am not start to quarrel yet. You relax yourself. The day I quarrel about the Democratic Labour Party will come. That day will come. You gotta wait a little time though. I know you're in a hurry, but it's at least a year or so you gotta wait before that time comes. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are at then the other intervention, the other point that he spent a lot of time on was Christchurch South's organic experience. He didn't say it so elegantly, but the Oystins Fish Market area. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, you know, the honourable member's midday words do not match his morning words. And his morning and midday words do not match his evening words. Because it is the records of this House that reflect that when this government offered to, and then followed up on the offer by making an investment of $5 million to develop Oystins, the honourable member for Christchurch South, he who has now abandoned Christchurch South to go to St. John, stood in his place and made it clear he did not want any money spent in Oystins. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Deputy Speaker, do you not recall that? Do you not recall that, sir? That is a part of the records of this House. The honourable member, sir, now comes in here today, a few months later, to say that the Barinda Cox market needs to have improvements and that a caring government would invest some money in the Barinda Cox market to ensure that ordinary people, and this is the kind of this is just vomiting out words that are not aligned to any philosophical commitment to anything. But the same people in the Barinda Cox market today were there 5 months ago when the honourable member was saying he didn't want any money spent. I remember standing in this place after the honourable member for Christchurch West lambasted him in here. And I said, if I could get $5 million spent in my constituency, I'd be the happiest body. And he had the offer of $5 million to spend. It was spent. And the honourable member said he didn't want a cent of it being spent. Now, if that is the standard by which we are to operate, sir, then let us say so. But I want the country now to reflect upon the manner of man. What manner of man is this? Who is capable of saying in September that we should be spending money in Barinda Cox market and need developing. But in January, February, I don't want a cent spent on there. That is money to buy votes. I don't want the money spent out there. They want to put me out. Mr. Speaker, it is beneath us. It is beneath this House. And worst of all, sir, it is beneath the office that the honourable member now holds. He is not in here as a newcomer backbencher. He has served in this place now, sir, for 7 years, and he is sitting in the chair of the Leader of the Opposition. So let us then go now, sir, to what the honourable member did not talk about. And but you didn't talk about the legislation. All that I've talked about is what you talked about. Why are you quarreling with me? I am only responding to what you talked about. So if I am not talking about the legislation, it means you didn't talk about it neither, Star. I don't trouble you, you know. I don't trouble you. But I will talk about the legislation and the context of what the honourable member for Christchurch East Central said. Because he was very right when he made the point that key to this, sir, is an effort by the government to raise the standards of product being offered in Barbados. And if we are serious as a country, we have to recognize that it's not only here. We have to come to the point, Mr. Speaker, sir, where we have a standards economy. That in everything we do, there must be a set of standards applied to it. Ideally, Mr. Speaker, sir, there should be standards in commerce which enable us, irrespective of whether you are the lowly hairdresser, cosmetologist, or the very upper class contractor doing multi-million-dollar projects, or the hoteliers, sir, doing those things that they do at world-class standards. And why? Because it is only through doing it at world-class standards, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we are able then to lift our experience together, we lift our business acumen together, and then we are in a position, sir, to move the services that we provide outside of Barbados and into the wider region, and hopefully, by extension, into the wider world. That is how the foreign exchange is earned. If you are to earn the foreign exchange, sir, by way of services, you have to do so at a level that allows other countries not to stand in the way of you entering their market or competing successfully in the market by raising standards issues against you. In other words, the honourable member doesn't tell anybody, but he goes very often into the wider Caribbean and practice the law. He don't tell anybody that because he likes to he masquerades as though he's a poor parish lawyer. But he goes, sir, and works for large amounts of money in other parts of the Caribbean. Mr. Speaker, sir, he has to do that which he does at a level that does not allow for those people to say he is unfit to practice in that part of the Caribbean where he is gone. I know that this agitates him because he tells the people in the Democratic Labour Party that he has no money to put in. You know, David Thompson used to put money back in the party. Erbar put money back in the party. But he does not do that. He has come to take out of the party, not give into the party. So Mr. Speaker, sir, the reality is that the legislation is pushing our service providers at this level in the direction of recognizing some fundamentals like consumer experiences and the value that must be placed on the consumer experiences, the fact that there has to be supporting infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, sir. And may I say that the Barbados Tourism Product Authority has a very critical role to play in all of this. Now again, the unspoken treasure that is the Tourism Product Authority, right, is that is a group of people who the same service providers can rely on to come to them and tell them, look, this is what you need to do in order to make money. This is what you need to do to provide your service better. And that happens, that there are folks in that Tourism Product Authority who make it their business to go and do the inspections, who sit and work with the people who are providing the services so as to enable them to better navigate the standards that they're expected to navigate in order to be able to deliver appropriately. Now, you don't hear that when the Democratic Labour Party talks, but that is a fact. That is a fact, sir. But why is it that he wants me to quarrel with him, sir? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And every time he interrupts me, he causes me to remember.
Please, 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 please.
Every time he interrupts me, he causes me to remember, sir, that part of the advantage of this legislation is also about the democratization, better delivering on the democratization of our economy. No, sir. If in my neighborhood, I can have 5 or 6 people that are saying my house or part of my house is on the Airbnb platform or whatever the other platforms are, that same thing. Shared economy, that's the correct way of treating to it. It's called a shared economy platform. If my house or somebody else's house in the neighborhood is on, it means that we are now players in the tourism industry. It means now that we are not just living in a house or owning a house, but that house is generating wealth. And if the government, through the Barbados Tourism Product Authority, is now working with those property owners in order to make sure that they can do that which they do better, and that they can raise their game to a certain standard, that the customer review, when you have come and you've experienced and you go online and you say, this is my review, and your review is as positive can be, that brings in more business to you. It means that the government, not only through taxation, but the government through the actual work of the Tourism Product Authority is empowering Barbadians to be able now to generate more wealth, not only as property owners, but as business operators. And as property owners and business operators, we said by way of the legislation that we came to Parliament and dealt with in the budget, or the initiative we came to Parliament and dealt with in the budget, you got a business, you got a property. Now it's time to make sure that you can, with ease, transfer that successful business in that property to your children, thereby creating intergenerational wealth. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that is the magic of it. No, that is not something that you just sit down and do so. That had to be carefully crafted as a series of policy steps in order to bring us to this point. Now, in contrast, Mr. Speaker, sir, we hear a Democratic Labour Party that is just waffling, rambling, picking at every loose thread that they believe they find. But what is the philosophy of the Democratic Labour Party on this? Have you heard it? Nobody who listens to the honourable member has heard it. What is the thinking of the Democratic Labour Party on this sector, other than to say you gotta give concessions? Well, sir, clearly I've indicated by way of the finance policy initiatives that we've done successively over the years that the concessions have in fact been given. And then I hear some rambling nonsense about how a rum shop, Mr. Speaker, sir, is to be entitled to tourism concessions. Now it tells me that the honourable member, King's Counsel that he is, the honourable member, sir, has clearly not taken the time even to read the legislation or the suite of legislation associated with these matters. You can only benefit from concessions in tourism, sir, if the majority of the money that you're making is as a direct result of tourism offerings. So you have to be showing that the surpluses, the real money that you're making coming from tourists. Which rum shop in Barbados, sir, primarily makes its earnings off of tourists? The rum shop, sir, is an ordinary commercial business which tourists go to. It is like, if we did that, we would then have to open the gates, sir. Every supermarket would be saying, well, we are a tourism business, so we gotta be entitled to concessions. Mr. Speaker, sir, every gas station that got a little sales thing inside of it will be saying, well, we got tourists pass through here, so we entitled to tourism concessions. And it is that bankruptcy of intellect, that lawless, naked, lazy, almost simple, stupid way of approaching national development, sir, that is the difficulty that comes out of George Street. You don't want me to say these things, but
Honourable
I have
member
to call
for
it
Christchurch
as I see it, Mr. Speaker, sir. Don't stop him from heckling me, sir. Don't stop him from heckling me. He does that because he gets agitated that somebody pulls away the fig leaf and exposes the nakedness of his intellectual stamina. But the point is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it is true. If he is going to argue in this place that you are entitled to tourism concession because you're running a rum shop, then, sir, clearly every supermarket will go get. Every wholesale and retail will go get. In fact, the whole country could as well be given tourism concessions. And is that now to pass as economic policy in this country? And I ask those people who make it the business to put on powder and makeup and a good suit, a lovely suit, to come in here behind him, sir. Reflect as you go back down the stairs on how he has failed you, on how he has brought you here to let you down and embarrass you. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, not you, sir, the honourable member, and then, sir, perhaps even you most faithful few will want to turn your back away from him too. No, Mr. Speaker, sir. Last but by no means least, we need to spend a little time on this question of property ownership as a step to wealth creation. Because that, sir, is a kernel that does not only run through the tourism sector, it has to run through the entirety of commerce in Barbados. We have to have a culture in this country where our people are encouraged to save, access property, maintain property, develop the property, and use property as a means either directly, as happens with this accommodation sector, where people just allow people to come and live, allow others to come and live, and they pay rent, etc., and that gives them income. Or you use the property and the equity in the property to leverage an opportunity to make other investments. In the by-election in St. James North, Mr. Speaker, sir, I met a few young people. Most of them would have been females between 20 and 30. And I am very pleased that, one doing cosmetology, another doing screen printing with T-shirts, another doing hairdressing. And in each of the cases, Mr. Speaker, so you know what they wanted to engage on? How best they can either acquire or leverage property that they had already acquired in order to help them advance their business. This, sir, is a critical component of economic development in the country. The legislation is crafted in such a way as to incentivize our property owners to raise their game and to deliver at a higher standard. But it is also against a philosophical backdrop that we as Black Barbadian people in particular, must also use the opportunity that is presented to us by way of property ownership as a stepping stone towards wealth creation, and then, sir, intergenerational wealth. And as I said before, if the honourable member paid the least bit of attention to what was happening in these budgets, he would have heard, it's only the last budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, I carry far back. In February, or when it was March this year, that we stood in here and we said that where you have a property that is, you have a company, and that company owns a property, and if the property is under a mortgage, then that mortgage is going to be reduced, because if it is that the company can demonstrate that there is a profit being derived from that property, we ain't standing in the way of your building a profit. We will incentivize you by reducing the property tax so as to ensure that you can get an even better deal. That is where this government has been going. That is the way in which this government has been working with that sector of the society and economy, Mr. Speaker, sir. And it is a tragedy. You don't want me to say that either. But I don't know what you want me to call it. I know you feel that here's a place for buffoonery, but it is not. There are people who are struggling out there, Honourable Member for Christchurch South. There are people out there, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, who place trust in the Honourable Member for Christchurch South, went and put an X next to him, next to his name, in the hope that he would at some stage show maturity expected of a man with grey hair. And he comes in here, sir, to make sport at the fact that the human struggle in an effort to use the little bit of land that you get access to. You build something on it. You want to leverage it now for business purposes. What do we get from an opposition? That they come to make sport at the effort rather than to understand the policy of the government. Now, Mr. Speaker, so if he wanted to engage with us sensibly, he could tell me, well, why is it that you only cut the mortgage to 9% as opposed to 5%? And give me a reason why it should be at 5%. If he wanted to engage sensibly, he would say, well, why it is that the policy is only limited to those people who are incorporated. Why it can't be that people show, even though they're not incorporated, that I got a business running from in the house, and the business making a profit, I got business records, but I don't have an incorporation because I didn't go to the stage of a company. If you wanted to make sense, that is where you would engage with the government. but you come with this rancid simplicity, as though it was something that you only come here to make sport about, when really and truly it is only through intellectual stamina and commitment that we are able to ensure that we have crafted the best possible policies to advance the people of Barbados. No, sir,
Honourable Member for Christchurch South.
I'm convinced he can't help himself, sir. There's a level of juvenile behavior. I said today at the lunch table when I sat with him, sir, that I honestly don't expect that for much longer we will see him in public life. Not because he'll be beaten. I don't think he's going to go as far as to contest an election. I think the honourable member has made some sport. He has sat in the chair of leader of the opposition, got his name in the history book. He probably has earned a little income additionally that he could relax on. This is his cushion of comfort. Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't think that
stay
there's
on
any
the subject
sincerity.
matter, please.
I beg your pardon, sir?
Stay on the subject
Oh,
matter.
I beg your pardon, sir. Sorry. The subject, sir, of the legislation and not the honourable member. Yes, sir, I agree. You're trying to tell me very politely, sir, don't waste time talking about the honourable member. And I'm glad for the guidance.
I'm trying to stop you from interrupting.
I'm very glad for the guidance.
While you wrap up.
No. No, Mr. Speaker, sir. The other aspect of this, and perhaps this is really the final aspect of the importance of this legislation. We are competing internationally. There are a number of people out there, in fact, across not only across Barbados, sir, but across this region, who are dealing with this matter of a shared economy, a shared economy platform. There are a number of people, sir, who are interested in doing this type of business. We are not alone.
Give me a minute. Honourable Member for Christchurch South, you had little to no interference when you were speaking. I would like you to do the same, please. Thank you.
There are a number of countries around.
Point of order, sir. I accept the guidance of the chair, and on a point of order, under the rules, to ask the member to remain relevant, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, may I continue?
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir.
And remain on the subject matter as well, sir.
Certainly, sir, certainly. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, there are a number of countries around the world which are seeing its citizens engaged in the same type of economic activity that we're now talking about. And those countries obviously are competing with us, and those people are competing with us. It is important, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we ensure that, first of all, the owners and operators of these platforms do not find in Barbados and in the Barbados business person in this sector a set of people who are failing to reach certain standards or failing to own and operate their business in a manner that is consistent with the standard of the companies that own and operate these platforms. It is equally important, sir, that our people, if they are to be a successful part of the tourism product, be sensitive to the larger tourism product effort, which is seeing that the Minister of Tourism and his team are trying to promote and project Barbados' image and business in Barbados in a certain way and at a certain level, and that they conform to that particular standard of operation. Unless that synergy is met, sir, we will have problems. There have been countries, sir, in fact, let's not even go to countries, there have been businesses doing this type of thing, which have been exceptionally creative. They have looked at certain segments of the market, for example, persons with disabilities, and they construct homes or accommodation facilities in such a way as to make it as easy as possible for persons with disabilities to come and to reside there in comfort. There are people, sir, who do that for persons not only with disabilities, but persons with who are elderly. And therefore, sir, again, there are structures put in place and mechanisms where you facilitate the elderly in getting to the accommodation and even, sir, moving around after they leave the accommodation. That is the level at which this type of operation is being conducted internationally. It is important, therefore, sir, that as we have this type of debate, we see it not only as a profit-making opportunity for somebody that got a couple extra rooms or got an extra house or got a piece of property that they ain't doing nothing with yet, so let me just put it in Airbnb and see some money come in. There has to be a little bit more to it than that, that lends structure to the enterprise and also to the product offering that we call Barbados. I recognize that the time is virtually up, sir, so I will not press the issue. I am obliged to you.
Honourable member for St. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I rise to just for a few moments share some perspectives with the Honourable House. I begin by stating that I am very, very pleased with this tourism accommodation bill, the legislation, and I'll explain briefly why I am. Just looking at some specific components of the bill, which will hopefully soon become actual legislation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I think it is important to go back a little bit before we speak to where we are. Tourism accommodation has come quite a long way. From the days of, I think it used to be called the Royal Navy Hotel, that was not the original name, but Rachel Pringle's property in Canary Lane. We had the development after that. That was the late 1700s. After that, we had the railway, which went from Bridgetown to Belplain. And that allowed for the starting of the crane. It also allowed for the establishing of the Atlantis Hotel. Accommodation, Mr. Deputy Speaker, at a time long before what we refer to as the modern era. It is also important to recognize that in the modern era, along with the development of accommodation over the years, and we could probably say over the centuries, with the modern era, the development of tourism legislation is one that this Barbados Labour Party in government has a very proud track record on. I'm referring to this Barbados Labour Party, the party of which the Honourable Member for Christchurch South was part of for quite a considerable time in his political career. So he knows. I hear the member for St. James Central saying that he doesn't read. I do not believe that. I think he comes to make mischief. I think he is more intelligent than he looks, more intelligent than he sounds. And so, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have in 1956, under Sir Grantley Adams, the Hotel Aids Act, a piece of legislation almost in advance of its time, a piece of legislation that took us right through to 2002, a piece of legislation that was so well crafted for its time that it was able to last decades and still be relevant. Then we had 2002, the Barbados Labour Party in government, and we had another advanced piece of legislation, the Tourism Development Act. And that Tourism Development Act, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is still the legislation that we use 23 years later with some amendments. There was a relatively significant amendment in 2014. But substantively, the tourism industry is still governed by that 2002 Tourism Development Act. And now we come to 2025. And this Barbados Labour Party, again, under the leadership in tourism of the Honourable Member for St. Michael, West Central. Another piece of forward-looking, realistic legislation that will help to take the tourism industry forward. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I believe that it ought to be recognized by Barbadians that it is this Barbados Labour Party in office that sees the importance of the industry, that recognizes the importance of the industry, that recognizes the need to upgrade and update the legislation that governs how we manage the industry. Now, we talk about branding, and I think sometimes we see branding maybe in a more modern, but often more superficial context. Branding in 2025 does not often go as deep into what a thing really is, but it speaks very often, and in my view, maybe too often, to what a thing looks like, how it is perceived, but superficially. I contend, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that in an industry like tourism, an industry that is internationally competitive, an industry where one has, while sitting in Barbados, compete against a hotel, we're talking about accommodation, in the Maldives, has to compete against a hotel in the tropical Western Pacific, has to compete intra-regionally with a hotel in Turks and Caicos, in order to be able to maintain a stake in the industry, in order to be able to maintain some level of market share. The matter of branding has to be taken maybe even more seriously than we actually do take it, and I believe that we take it very, very seriously. Now, I speak to taking it seriously or even more seriously because visitors are ordinarily very discerning. When a person has to spend money, particularly when a person has to spend what they consider a lot of money, their examination of the product is more intense. That is just a fact of life. It happens with all of us. We examine much more carefully that which we spend more resources on. And so we know that those who come to our country are discerning, and they will pick up, they will unearth all of those things that we may not see, but things that serve to diminish what we have said the name Barbados represents. And so the stipulations, if we term them as such, if we look at the stipulations with regard to the areas covered by this bill, we recognize that the ministry and the government of this country is intent on safeguarding the brand, is intent on safeguarding the integrity of that story which we share internationally when we say to people, come to our country, come to Barbados because you are coming to a place of high value. You are coming to a place where what we share with you is what we share with you by way of advertising is what you actually get when you get to the country. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is very easy to lose brand integrity. And I heard earlier a mention about money spent on product versus money spent on advertising. I always remember the words of a former president or CEO of the Barbados Tourism Authority, as it was then called. And he said to a group of us, well, to the board of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, nothing kills bad product like good advertising. I've never forgotten that. Because what it said to me and the truth that it revealed to all of us was that you can do all the advertising in the world. If your product is not good, then your industry will collapse. And it is important then, as this bill seeks to do and will do when it becomes law, it is imperative that inspections take place, that those who sell, and Mr. Speaker, we must be very clear, those who sell vacations at their properties are selling Barbados. That is important. No individual owner or operator of an accommodation business in tourism, in the tourism industry, is selling only their place of business. In international tourism, once you are out there internationally in the market, you are also selling the country. The country, therefore, has a responsibility. The country has a responsibility to the 200 and how many ever thousand persons living on this rock to make sure that no individual in pursuit of their own gain, in pursuit of legitimate business interests, does harm to the brand and the name of this country. And so the matter of holding those who operate accommodation, those who have businesses selling rooms to visitors who come to this country, or those visitors who are from this country who choose to go on staycations. The matter of holding all of these accommodation businesses to certain standards is very important. And I want to say that there is nothing in this legislation that would suggest that everybody has to operate at a 5-star level. The legislation speaks to particular standards being set by the minister. But Barbados has always sold its industry as a high-standard industry. And so if you are operating a 3-star accommodation product, then the country, not just the government, but the country expects that this accommodation is the best 3-star anywhere in the Caribbean, or maybe anywhere in the world. If you are selling a 4-star product, then it is expected that your 4-star product is comparable to any other 4-star product, any other good 4-star product anywhere in the world. And so I just want to be clear, because in my own experience, I have heard, and I think I heard this around 2001, 2002, there is the feeling sometimes by accommodation providers that a government expects that everybody will be at 5-star, or even beyond 5-star, 5 Diamond, which is reputed to be a little bit above 5-star. This legislation does not ask an Airbnb or any other accommodation to be at a 5-star, or what is commonly referred to as a 5-star level. And so it is to be understood that however you are selling yourself, however you are selling your product, then you have to be the best at that level. You have to be offering on behalf of the country, not just on behalf of your own business, but on behalf of the country. You have to be offering excellence in an internationally competitive marketplace. The importance of this industry, I believe, cannot be understated. The Honourable Member for St. Michael South West Central spoke, and he didn't use this word, I don't remember the word, but I use a word that I've heard used, which means the same thing. There is a view out there that the industry is a fickle one. I've heard that term used very, very many times. Yes, well, fragile was the term you used, but I've heard fickle. That speaks to the fact that the industry reacts to international events, international developments. But Mr. Deputy Speaker, I posit that the tourism industry is much more resilient than it is thought to be. There have been many, many disasters. There's now been a significant pandemic in our immediate past. Whether it was the bombing in Bali, whether it was the tsunami, whether it was 9/11, whether it was the pandemic, all of those events took place. All of those tragic events took place. And I will say to you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the tourism industry has at every time bounced back. It is much more resilient than fairy tale makes it out to be. I also posit that it remains an important industry for this country. Now, I'm going to be careful in what I say next because there are mischievous people around. I don't mean around in the chamber, but outside maybe listening. This industry is able, and I'm saying this as a minister responsible for labor, it is, however, a view that I've held for many decades. This industry is able to employ persons with PhDs. It is able to employ persons with 0 CXCs. It is an industry that is able to accommodate workers at every level of academic achievement, at every skill level. Persons who, regardless of skill level, regardless of academic achievement, can rise to the highest levels in the industry. The Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central and I have worked with some of those persons with limited O-level or CXC or CSET qualifications who have become excellent general managers for international chains. This industry is important not just for the economy of the country, but it is also important for the people development component that it carries within it. It allows people who may not have the kind of certification that banking requires, or the engineering skills that renewable energy requires, or back in the days when it was in the audit firms, that what we used to call the offshore sector, international banking, international insurance, captive insurance. You may not have that level of educational attainment, but you are able to do well, you are able to grow in this tourism industry once a person applies themselves. And so, Mr. Speaker, I heard the Honourable Member for St. James Central speaking to the 5 million and speaking to Oystins. I, like him, was begging for some of the money. I wanted it put in Spikestown. It didn't happen. I do not know why you would force feed anybody, but the money was spent in our sins nonetheless. But I will say to you that St. Peter and Spikestown, and I know the Honourable Member for Christ Church South would be happy when I say St. Peter and Spikestown. But I would say to this chamber, to the Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central, that St. Peter and Spikestown has benefited greatly from tourism over the years. And I will share that the people of my constituency are looking forward to be participant and beneficiaries of the existing construction that is going on in the industry. That is to say, the pendery at the Retreat Six Men's border and the pending development of the Sandals property, which is to be branded as beaches at the old, well, in Haywoods, the site of the original Haywoods Hotel. And that is because we recognize that the industry is important. And we recognize that product generally is important to the industry. We also recognize in the north of the island that the accommodation, that place where people sleep, where they wake up, and where they often have breakfast, that place is important in the decision-making of our visitors. And so they join me in wanting to make sure that our tourism accommodation remains of a high standard. And that is something that we are ad idem on, we are together on, we share the same view on, and we are happy that this bill addresses the matter.
You have 5 more minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The bill at Section 10 speaks to staff, and I'm happy that it emphasizes and actually makes mandatory the training of members of staff. It is not kosher, it is not acceptable that we just encourage the hiring of workers. There must be an effort made to make sure that those who are hired to work benefit from training that will allow the business to be profitable, but that will also maintain the standard of the tourism establishment, the accommodation establishment. And so I am pleased that the matter of training is included as an important part of this bill. There is also the matter at Section 18, which we really cannot downplay. The matter of pets and the fact that staff must be protected from pets, the pets of guests. Now, one of the things that pleases me about the bill is that in a number of places when it speaks to those persons that it is addressing, it places staff, it lists, let me put it that way, it lists staff before it lists visitors. That, Mr. Speaker, speaks to me about a growing recognition in the industry that it is really the people who work, who give the service, who are the key persons in this industrial setup. They are the key people. And we know the phrase that if your staff are happy, then your guests will be happy. They will feel it. And so we have to commend the ministry, those who worked in the ministry, and those who drafted for that recognition. And I also speak finally to the matter of universal access. The Act places a responsibility on those operators of businesses to make sure that over time there is accessibility, the matter of accessibility is addressed. The bill also recognizes quite wisely that it may not be possible to make the accommodation. And I say that, Mr. Speaker, having some level of experience in this matter, working with the National Council, the Council for the Disabled, and attempting, and this was when there was the program Fully Accessible Barbados, trying to make the hotel that I ran accessible. It was not possible. We were focusing at that time on wheelchair accessibility. It was possible in the restaurant, it was possible in the public areas. It was not possible in the rooms because a lot of the hotel plant is original housing that is remodeled and rebuilt and rejigged. If the owner had not purchased an adjoining property, we would not have been able, which we eventually were able to do, build a new block. And so the fact that the bill recognizes that while it imposes a certain responsibility, it leaves open the fact that if, and in the minister's discretion, there is not the possibility for that accommodation to be made, then the operator or the owner is not penalized. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this piece of legislation is a good piece of legislation. It is a needed piece of legislation. This does not speak to no experimentation. Experimentation took place under the Democratic Labour Party when they sought to bring GAL, the airline from Brazil, into Barbados. No work done around the gateways, no work done in terms of language, no work done on anything. And so after June 2010, very shortly after that, that flight stopped. Experimentation happens under the Democratic Labour Party in government, not under the Barbados Labour Party, and I would wish that we wouldn't get confused about that. This Barbados Labour Party is about developing a critical industry. It is about developing an important industry. And I think I have shared enough to allow you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and those who may hear or may be following, that developing this industry takes thought, it takes foresight, and I'm happy to be part of the party in government that over the decades has applied its mind to the industry and has crafted legislation to suit the times, has recognized the evolution of the industry, has recognized when we need to change, when we need to up our game, and has not been afraid to come to this chamber to do just that. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I commend this tourism accommodation bill to this House. I commend it to this country. I commend it to the industry. And I am sure that it will do our country, it will do our economy, it will do our people very well. I'm obliged to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that we do suspend this sit-in for 10 minutes to 20 minutes past 4 o'clock. 25 minutes past 4 o'clock, sorry.
The question is that this House break for 10 minutes until 25 minutes past 4. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. We now break until 4:25 p.m.